Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. It's brilliant to see so many of you here, nearly 400, and we'll get that number up as we go through. First, start off with an apology. It's Mr. Hegarty here. I did something silly, right? I went live. I was trigger happy and went live a couple of minutes before I should have. Sorry about that, guys. That means I gave everyone a couple of extra minutes to join the session there. So, very sorry for that. Hope I didn't confuse many of you. Was just a little mistake here on the YouTube end. Thanks as always so much for joining. It's so appreciative. I love working with you guys. You guys are becoming an absolutely great community and we're doing some really good maths together. So thanks so much for joining and really excited for today's session as always. So what are we doing today? We're continuing this manipulating powers work we've been doing. In A level, you got to do loads of stuff on logarithms, loads of stuff on powers, loads of stuff of solving equations involving powers. Yesterday, we made a great start. We did some tricky work yesterday, and we're going to continue. The last question today is a bit tricky, so really looking forward to getting through this session and making sure so many of you can do it. As always, bring that brain. Your brain is your most precious commodity. Attention, brain power, you can do it. And pen and paper. Write what I write down, then you practice. We can do it. Half the battle of what we're doing in these sessions is showing our workings, showing to the world we can write maths and communicate maths. That's just as important as getting the right answer. Right, guys. So I'm going to go straight into a question today. We're starting relatively straightforward, and then we're going to build as time goes by, as we always do. So here we go. Our 10th lesson. Let's begin. Write the square root of 128 as a power of 2. What's different today is we're using square roots and things like that. So what's our objective? Write the square root of 128 as 2 to the power of something. Always write down your objective. Transform the text into actual maths. And let's go about doing it. The square root of 128, okay?
I can't connect to your Wi-Fi network. You can find setup instructions in the help section of your Alexa app.
Well, there we go. That was quite funny. That was Alexa on the go there. I don't know if you guys heard that, but I had to turn it off. Something I said there got Alexa to speak out. So the square root of 128, that's the square root of 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32, times 2 is 64, times 2 is 128. So that's the square root of 2 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the square root, we write that as to the power of a half. Using the power of the power rule, this is 2 to the 7 multiplied by a half, which is just 7 over 2. So this is 2 to the power of 7 over 2, the square root of 128. This flexibility, guys, this ability to just manipulate between powers and surds, absolutely crucial for A levels. So that's why we're starting here and practicing. Apologies, Alexa. She has been turned off at the wall. She will not interrupt us again. Here we go, guys. Over to you. Good point there. We could have just asked Alexa to maybe do these questions for us, but we need to do them ourselves. So, right, how do we do this? Square root of 125. Loads of answers coming in there. 5 to the power of 3 over 2. Well, that's the square root of 5 times 5 times 5, or the square root of 5 cubed. Remember, square root, the other way of writing that is to the power of a half. And just like you guys are getting, I got 5 to the power of 3 over 2 as well. Love to see that. You guys getting that on your own. Really well done. Really proud of you. Okay, we're going to build this up. It's going to get, we'll do one more bit like this, and then it's going to get much more difficult. So just warming us up, taking our breath. Alexa put me off last time. Let's do a nice clean example without Alexa involved. Here we go. Write the cube root of 32 as a power of 2. So the cube root of 32, we want to write it as 2 to the power of n for some n that we're going to find. That's our objective, right? So let's go and do that. The cube root of 32, that's the same thing as the cube root of what? 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. That's the cube root of 2 to the power of 5. And remember the cube root of a number is like that number to the power of a third. So this is 2 to the power of 5, all to the power of a third, which is 2 to the power of 5 multiplied by a third, which is 2 to the power of 5 thirds. So the cube root, just want to do a cube root there so you don't just see square roots. I got 2 to the power of 5 thirds. Okay, over to you. Here we go. Remember, if you're struggling to copy down, we can rewatch this later. We can do it at a much slower pace. Don't stress out. As always in life, do what you can in the moment, but then be prepared to go back and do a bit of extra work if you need to. Over to you. Here we go. Luke, Nvidia, Wazim, Devon, William, Harshini, Abby, Sam, Lewis, Olivia, Abby. Sorry I can't say all your names as quickly as they're coming through there, but a load of cracking answers in. Let's reveal what the answer was. I got 3 to the power of 4 thirds. Okay, 3 to the power of 4 thirds. Wazim says, do you need the brackets? Wazim, some guys are writing the brackets in, yeah, because it's a chat room and it's hard to write maths. But when it's on a piece of paper, the way I've written it on the screen is absolutely fine. The people doing the brackets, they're just being kind to Mr Hegarty because they're writing it in a chat room way. But it's absolutely fine to write it the way I did there. Good question though, Wasim. Okay, nice work, people. Happy with how we've done. It's time to get more tricky now. Now, today we're involving square roots and cube roots. Maybe we're going to throw a little bit of negative powers in there. Let's see where we get to. Here we go. Next question. Write 1 over the 4th root of 27 as a power of 3. Take a breath. Don't panic. Translate text, first of all, into math. So I always write this down just to give me thinking time. What this means is I need to write it in that form. That's what a power of 3 means, based on what we did yesterday. Okay, now I don't try and save the world and do everything in one go. I take my time. I just try and do the easy stuff first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and deal with this denominator first. Leave that 1 over, come back to this at the end. Leave even the 4th root for now. If you want to write it as a power of 3, can we write just the 27 like that? Well, 27 is 3 times 3 times 3, right? So just retranslating this, we could write this as that. 1 over the 4th root of 3 cubed. The 4th root, remember, the 4th root of a number is like that number to the power of 1 over 4. So we can say this is 1 over 3 cubed all to the power of a quarter, or 1 over 4. Multiplying this bit out, that's 1 over 3 to the 3 quarters, because 3 times a quarter is 3 quarters. Now, hopefully also you remember this rule. Remember this rule, right? A to the power of -1 is 1 over a. So we've got 1 over this thing here. So we could just write this as 3 to the power of -3/4. 3 to the power of -3/4. That negative, remember 3 to the -3/4 means 1 over 3 to the power of +3/4. And then we have this bad boy in the shape we need. Now, tricky as anything there, tricky as they come. Really got to have your wits about you here. Some of you were getting that. It is, bear with it. Don't rush it. Show you're working like I did. I believe in you. I think you can do it. It's now your turn. Here we go. Ethan, India, Mushi, Mariam, Wasim, Daniel, Lewis, Emmanuel, Callum, Matthew. Wow, loads of good answers coming in here. Getting really excited about these answers. A lot of you are getting 2 to the power of -7 over 4. Let's have a look what I got. Remember I do these very early in the morning, usually 5, half 4 sometimes, so I can't always remember what I got. I do one live in front of you. I do one. Here's one I made earlier, as they used to say on Blue Peter. So I also got 2 to the power of -7 over 4. 2 to the power of -7 over 4. And loads of you got that. Wow. Loads of you got that. That's tricky stuff. Really, really tricky. And I'm very proud of you for those who can do it. For those who are struggling, remember, this session's recorded. We can go back over with crisp notes afterwards. We can flesh this stuff out. If you need to look back at the previous videos, they will help because we're using a lot of the lessons we did last week here. Okay, really good progress so far. So we've got 3 more questions today, and they're going to get even trickier as we go along. Here's the next one. Write 64 times the square root of 32 as a power of 2. Translate text into maths. So I'm going to write 64 times root 32 as a power of 2. That's our objective. And then I go about doing it. So 64 times the square root of 32. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with that 64 issue separately. Now 64... 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32, times 2 is 64. So I've replaced that 64 with those 2's. And then we've got times the square root of 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. So all I've done is brought the powers of 2 in here. I've left the square root. I've left everything alone. Haven't tried to do it all in my head. So what's this? Well, this is 2 to the power of 6 multiplied by the square root of 2 to the power of 5. And tidying this up, this is 2 to the power of 6 multiplied by 2 to the power of 5 to the half, because the square root is the same as to the power of a half. That's 2 to the power of 6 multiplied by 2 to the power of 5 over 2. Because the base is the same, that's 2 to the power of 6 plus 5 over 2. And then what we've got to do is go and work out 6 add 5 over 2 as a combined fraction. So 6 add 5 over 2. I want to make the 6 over 2 as well. So that's really 6 over 1. If I want to make it over 2, I double top and bottom like that. And so what we get ourselves is 17 over 2. So our final answer, therefore, is 2 to the power of 17 over 2. 64 multiplied by root 32 is actually, as a power of 2, 2 to the power of 17 over 2. Tricky. Very tricky. Okay. Here we go. It's time for you guys to have a go. This is tricky stuff. Remember the rules. Get it in the power asked for. Take your time. Do one step at a time. Get to a final answer in a simplified form. So here we go. Can you leave it as a mixed number, Mina? Yes, you can. I like improper fractions, though. So try and put it in improper fraction for me if you can. Here we go. Right, a load of answers in here. People are getting 3 to the power of 7 over 2. Let's reveal. I also got 3 to the power of 7 over 2. Really proud of you guys. That it's tricky what we're trying to get done here. So there's a lot going on. If you're struggling, you've made a mistake, rewatch this section afterwards. It's okay with the blank slides. And remember, look at that playlist as well. The playlist from all our prior learning. If some of you have missed a lesson out, it could be one of the reasons you're not sure what's going on here. But a lot of good work there from people in the chat. Well done. Right, 2 more questions. This one now is fairly tricky too. Here we go. Write the cube root of 128 divided by 8 squared as a power of 2. So 2 to the power of something. Okay, deep breath in here. When I see something like this, I just think to myself, I'm going to deal with what I can and not try and do it all in one go. So I'm going to say, how do I write 128 as a power of 2? Leave the cube root alone. So I'm going to say the cube root of what? Well, it's actually 2 to the power of 7. Just to explain why, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 64, times 2 is 128, and that's 2 to the power of 7. So we've replaced the 128 with a power of 2 like that. Next thing we're going to do is keep that divide where it is. Let's see if we can write 8 as a power of 2. And we can. That one's pretty easy. It's 2 cubed, isn't it? Because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So that 2 cubed, but don't forget it's to the power of 2. All right. So all I've done is put in powers of 2 there, not tried to do anything else. Now I'm going to think of this cube root. That's the same thing as to the power of a half. So keep that 2 to the 7, but raise it to the power of a third. The cube root is the same as a power of a third. Keep that divide, keep that 2 cubed, and leave it to the power of 2 there. Now the power of the power rule means 2 to the 7 to the third, we can multiply these, and 2 to the 3 to the 2, we can multiply the 3 and the 2. So that's 2 to the 7 multiplied by a third is 7 thirds, divided by 2 to the 3 times 2 is 6. And because we're dividing and the base number's the same, we can subtract the powers. So that's 2 to the power of 7 thirds take away 6. Now let's do some working on that, just so we don't do it in the middle of our maths. 7 thirds take away 6. Well, 6 is really 6 over 1. So I want the 6 over 1 written as over 3, so I can subtract these fractions. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by 3, multiply the numerator by 3. So I get 7 thirds subtract 18 thirds. And when I do that, I get negative 11 thirds. So final answer after a lot of work, 2 to the power of negative 11 thirds is the same thing as the cube root of 128 divided by 8 squared. And I can see some of you are following along. Why is the 2 cubed? The 2 is cubed originally because 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And what I did is I replaced that 8 with a power of 2. Hope that helped, Imran. Okay, time for you guys to have a go at a similar one. Remember our process. Take the text, convert to maths. Then try and write the things underneath the square roots or the things being squared as the powers you're asked. And then combine those additional powers at the end and use your power rules. Here we go. Over to you. Have a go at this one. I'm really, really pleased that some people can do this stuff. So obviously there's a few mistakes in the chat. Maybe it's to do with fractions, combining fractions, I think. But here is the answer I got. 3 to the power of negative 20 over 3. So yeah, that was really tricky, really tricky. I'm really happy that some of you could get there. It's absolutely okay, right? If you guys need to go back and watch this afterwards and practice a bit more, because some of this stuff is very hard. All right. Now, last question of the day. This one is, yeah, I think this one's the most tricky because it's hidden. The maths behind it, the actual arithmetic's not hard, but spotting how to do it is hard. So one final bad boy for the day. Here we go. Ooh. Express, it looks easy. Express 243 as a power of 9. Now you guys are probably looking at that and going, Mr. Hegarty, you saved the easiest question to the end. What you on about, Mr. Hegarty? We've done this in the first one. No, because if we do 9 times 9, you get 81. Times another 9, you get 729. So it's not easy to spot what 243 is as a power of 9. It's not obvious at all. Now, let's just, if we want to write it as a power of 9, I've got a little trick. Why don't we just use our laws of, why don't we just use our prime factor decomposition for 243? Write this as prime factors. So what we can do is we can say 243 is 3 times 81. And we can break 81 as 3 times 27. And we can break 27 as 3 times 9. And we can break 9 as 3 times 3. So we kind of knew that from previous, but just to make it clear, 243 is 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27 times 3 is 81 times 3 is 243. This is where the magic happens. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times the other 3 is 9. And we are left with this 3 left over. So let's just write the first 3 times 3 as 9, because we want to use it as a power of 9. Let's write the other 3 times 3 as another 9. Okay? And this last rogue 3, you've just got to spot this. This is the square root of 9, or 9 to the power of a half. Right? Because the square root of 9 is 3. And therefore, what have we got? Well, we've got 9 squared times 9 to the half, which is 9 to the power of 2 add a half, and 2 add a half is just equal to 5 over 2. So this is 9 to the power of 5 over 2. 243 is 9 to the power of 5 over 2. So what I did is I wrote 243 as prime factors. Then I combined the prime factors into the power I was asked for. I spotted a 9, I took it. I spotted another 9, I took it. What was left over, I converted it into a power of 9, just knowing my square roots. Right, time for one like this for you. Really tricky, this one. It's not easy to spot this. Even though it looks simple, it's tricky. Your turn. Athera, 32 is 2 to the power of 5. Great stuff, but we were asked to write it as a power of 4. So have another go at that. Have another go at that. We need our power to be 4. Totally get why you did that. Have another crack. Of course, Athera, absolutely get it. You were right in your working. No worries, Athera. Good shout. Wow, wow. I'm really look today. I think we did some really tricky maths. People are getting 4 to the power of 5 over 2. Let's have a look. I also got that. Now that was a tricky set of questions. Really, really was. So Mr. Arnold's going to post the notes into the chat room so you've got them. We're going to have a fresh copy with all bank workings. I'm going to have another copy with all my workings that I do early in the morning. I recommend you finish your notes off today, come back to this video in an hour or so, do all the my turn and your turn, just all over again, just to get this stuff absolutely in your mind, so it's fresh and it's getting deep into your long-term memory. And then I've got a review exercise for you. Review exercise here with answers, so you can go and practice some brand new questions to also make sure that everything we did today is in your mind. We'll also put this video into the playlist. There's a playlist on Hegarty Maths called Live Lessons. Everything's there with all the PDFs, etc. And want to say a massive thank you for coming here today. We did a great session. Really proud of you. Make sure you like the video before you go. That really helps us, really helps share the word. Just hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you guys are getting the notifications when I'm doing the lessons. I'm going to keep trying to do them every day while school's out. It's hard work. Me, Mr. Arnold, and Angela here at Hegarty Maths, we work on these, outside Hegarty Maths normal hours. So we're trying really hard to do something that helps you guys, helps keep you going, helps you keep you doing some maths. But share it, like it, tell other people before you go. It makes it worthwhile and it helps us get the word out. Really proud of you guys. Sorry about the technical issues today and Alexa getting involved. We'll have to turn Alexa off in future, right? And share those notes you make on Twitter with me at Hegarty Maths. I love them. They make me really happy. After this, me and Mr. Arnold have to go and have a business meeting about Hegarty Maths and all the stuff on that. And, you know, it gets pretty heavy. We've got so much to talk about, but we love seeing those notes. When we see them, it makes us happy at the end of the day, makes us feel we've done something good with our lives and given something back and supported you guys. Share those notes. Love working with you. We're building a great community here, and we better shoot. Me and Mr. Arnold better go and take that meeting. So, love seeing you. Catch you tomorrow at 2:00, and take care of yourselves. Look after your family. Look after your loved ones. Stay safe. Stay indoors. Bye-bye. See ya.